Good morning. Welcome to the Brick by Brick podcast with Ronald Paulius, where we talk about building the futures we want brick by brick, whether that's in real estate or personal growth. We're looking at how we can take hold of our lives instead of letting life just happen to us. This morning, I want to talk about avatars. Now, you're probably wondering which avatar. And I'm talking about avatars in real estate. So many people think to themselves, well, I have to start real estate in this specific way. I have to become a real estate agent. No, there are other ways. When it comes to real estate, you have to take the time to evaluate your situation and figure out what would be best. The reason I say that is you can dive into the deep end, whichever pool that is, and burn out. Not because real estate isn't something you should get into, but because you got into it from the wrong angle, from the wrong place. When I was in college, I had several peers of mine who would change degree pathways every semester or once a year. And the reason for that is they didn't know what they wanted to do. They knew they wanted to go into academia and learn and get a degree. They didn't know which pathway. And part of that is because they did not take into account their skill set and their resources. A lot of them were just looking at, oh, a doctor makes millions of bucks if they stay in it long enough. Or this job makes six figures. That career makes six. That'd be nice to get into. I can make a great living. And they don't always get the time or make the time to consider what they like and what they appreciate. How many times have you ran into someone who was doing a job and you ask them, did you train for this, or what degree did you get? And they respond, journalism, and they're the manager at McDonald's. Or they went to school for medical and they end up a salesman for insurance. Try it today. Maybe even your coworkers. Maybe it's even you. You went to school for one thing and you completely end up doing something else. Part of that sometimes is because there's not a demand for that job. Journalism, not a lot of people can become journalists, and that's understandable. But a lot of times I've found that opportunities come up different from what people were expecting, and they take that opportunity not because they studied 4 years for it, but because they have the skill set for it. They have the resources for it. They have the keen ability for it. And so when it comes to real estate investing, something you could consider is, what do you have the ability for? What do you have the resources for? I remember getting on Bigger Pockets and listening to their podcast, listening to their YouTube video, going on their website, and they talked about house hacking. And I said to myself, that's brilliant. House hacking is when you purchase a home and you rent out the other rooms. And so you get a 3-bedroom, you live in the one, you charge $750 for the other two, and you bring in $1,500, and your mortgage is $1,000, and you make that $500 difference in income and in cash flow, and someone else is paying off your mortgage. House hacking. You go to college, you buy a house, and you rent it out to college peers. And I said to myself, oh, I'm gonna house hack. I'm gonna house hack. Well, I surveyed my life, and it would not have worked out because I was living in the dorm at college. I had a part-time job. I was not gonna qualify for a house. I didn't have the income for it. And I was in Miami, Florida. Well, I was actually in Hope Sound, Florida at the time. It's like, yeah, you make, what was it, $12 an hour, and you only work 25 hours, and you're a full-time student? Yeah, we're not going to give you $500,000. We're not going to lend you $500,000 to buy a home. So I thought to myself, well, I'll wait till I'm done and I've graduated. And then I started working with Hope Sound Bible Church, and they provided housing for me. Well, house hacking is not going to work. And then I moved to Oklahoma, and shortly after I got married. Well, house hacking is out of the picture. I don't want to get some strangers, although I can vet them and make sure I know them. I can do all of that, but I was not comfortable with having strangers in my home. And I go to work and my wife stays home. And now I have a 9-month-old. And so you can see, as my life continued, there was complexities that were added that made it a little difficult to house hack like I wanted to. Now, I didn't allow that to prevent me, to hinder me from getting into real estate, though. I just had to change the route, the path. I had to walk through a different door to get to the same goals. And when you're considering the ways you can get into real estate, you have to think through, okay, am I wanting to be direct to seller? Meaning you're the one talking face to face with the families that are wanting to sell their houses? Are you an introvert? I know a few introverts who would rather not be talking to 100+ families a week. They'd rather be doing back-end stuff. So that begs the question, would you be great at building systems and working out numbers and making sure that deals that come in get to the finish line? Maybe you love reading purchase agreements and all the legalities of that and talking to title and escrow agents instead of people like sellers. Maybe it doesn't make sense for you to quit your job and to get full-time into real estate. I know one guy, he's in sub 2, and he works cybersecurity. He makes a killer living. Works early morning to late afternoon, similar to a high school schedule, 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. And he's making enough money. For him, it makes sense for him to simply buy deals. He says, hey, you guys who are wholesaling, you families who have distressed properties and you want cash quick and you just want to get up out from under it and go on to the next chapter of life, hey, I'll buy your home cash. It doesn't make sense for him to quit. He has a great W-2. It makes more sense for him to just buy. Maybe you would rather not talk to directly to sellers. Maybe you'd rather talk to agents. That's an avatar. People have built businesses just talking to agents, building relationships with agents, and telling agents, hey, if you run across a distressed property and it's not one you can easily list on the MLS, which is the like Zillow and Redfin. I know all of those pull from the MLS, but that's simply a way of you understanding exactly what I'm talking about. Maybe these houses won't easily sell because they're beat up, foundations horrible, the roof is caved in, it's burnt down. I drive through neighborhoods with many burned down houses. Well, somebody buys them. And it's amazing when you have that relationship with that agent and he comes across something like that and he sends it to you first. People have built businesses off that model. Maybe you have a whole bunch of cash and you want to be a private money lender. You're not wanting to dive in and take the risk associated with owning real estate yet, but you still want to get involved. You want to put your feet in the shorter end of the pool, the 2 feet, 3 feet. You kind of want to test the waters. Lending is great. There's different sets of risks associated with it. And in my episode, Protecting My Private Money Lenders, or How to Protect Yourself as a Private Money Lender, I talk about ways you can protect yourself. But it's an easy way for you to start to see what real estate's about, start to see actual numbers, how investors like me purchase a home, renovate it, all those things. I'd be happy to walk you through that. Maybe you're a connector. What does that mean? Well, maybe you know sellers who have land and they're wanting to sell it. And you're the one that knows builders who are wanting to build. And you connect them. Maybe you know someone like me who is running across deals they would want to keep as a rental. And you know someone else who has money that they want to lend. And you connect us. There are many ways you can get into real estate and be paid and start building the future you want brick by brick. Maybe you want to go the agent route. You can be called a unicorn agent. And a unicorn agent in our creative finance world is an agent who understands creative financing. We run across a lot of agents who simply know the traditional route of buying a house. Seller wants to sell, a buyer wants to buy. We go to the bank and the bank does their appraisals and inspections, and we bid and talk up and negotiate. Okay, we are selling the house for $310, but my offer is $295, and well, let's meet somewhere in the middle and do $305. We go that traditional route because it's easy and it's been done before and no one has to think about it because it's just the normal thing. It's like memorization. You don't even think about it anymore. Nine times 9 is 81. Just etched into my memory. But the unicorn agent understands the creative side. Because what do you do when a family has purchased a house last year at an 8% interest rate and they want to sell it this year? And the housing market has gone down in value. And the family has to move, not want to, they have to move because the husband's being deployed elsewhere. He thought he was going to be here for the next 20, 15 years, but something's happened. He has to go to a different base. And they're only 1 year into the house. Their first few payments are just principal payments. Sorry, they're interest payments. Got that backwards. So what do you do? Well, creative financing helps. Because if he can't come out of pocket to pay closing costs and to pay the agents involved and to potentially give concessions if something's wrong with the property that he's wanting to sell, then you gotta get creative, right? And so unicorn agents, we found, are amazing because we don't have to go the extra mile of explaining something they don't understand. And what do you do when you don't understand something? A lot of people shy away. It's like, oh, that's too complicated. Yeah, I'm not doing that. Remember, a confused mind says no. What avatar? And there are several more. Go on YouTube and search Avatar by Pace Morby. He does a whole 10-hour series on this, and I'm barely going deep. There's just a surface. There's so many ways you can get paid. There's so many ways you can get involved in real estate investing. There's so many routes you could take. You could be a wholesaler just to get cash up front. You could be a fix and flipper. You could make co-living houses where you get a floor plan of a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and you convert the garage and convert the kitchen and convert the living room and make it a 8-bedroom or a 5-bedroom, 4-bath, 3-bath, whatever it is. And you provide way more housing because there's a housing crisis right now. And you also increase your cash flow because more people could rent. Maybe you do a group home. Maybe you do sober living. So many people are recovering and they can't get normal housing and they'd be able to just rent a room. So many ways. But don't let those ways stop you and hinder you. You gotta be able to say, okay, I'm gonna try this for 90 days. I'm gonna try this route. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna take action here. And I'm gonna see where it takes me. You gotta take into consideration the resources you have, the skill set you have, the stage of life you're in, and what makes sense for the goals you have. And so I ask you, what actions are you taking today to build the future you want brick by brick.